there are a lot of people out there who've never learned to earn trust, and I think if you lean in and move toward, what you'll be shocked by is that imperfectly, not without failing, not without continuing to let you down along the way from time to time, they will lean in and move toward love too, and it will absolutely reroute the trajectory of that relationship. I was trying to write a sermon, so I went to the Drake Library to do some research and write, and at one point in the afternoon, I walked to the Come and Go right by campus to procure some caffeine. And I saw a homeless guy digging through the trash there, and he asked me for money. And I'll admit, I confessed at the very beginning, I have trust issues, and so my immediate question in that situation is this guy going to use my money to buy food, or is he going to use my money to buy booze? But I decided a long time ago to try looking for the best in people. To just say, all right, I'm going to start from a place of trust, and I know, not naively, I'm not going to do that, but I know I'm going to get taken advantage of sometimes, but if I'm a fool in this world, I want to be a fool for Jesus, so who cares? So I just told the guy, I was like, yeah, I don't have any cash, but I'll buy you something. Come pick it out. And he kind of looked at me, and then he sheepishly looked down at the ground and said, beer? Please, beer? So he immediately confirmed my suspicions that I should not have trusted him with money. And later in the day, I was telling Jenny this story. I was like, I saw this homeless guy, and she's like, oh, no, you did not buy beer for a homeless guy at Come and Go again. Did you? And I said, no, but to be fair, I did try to. I told him, like, yeah, I'll get you beer. Come pick out the one you want, but only if you get a sandwich or a hot dog too. I will buy you beer if you let me buy you food also. And this guy looked at me wide-eyed and then kind of leaned back like I was shady. And then he turned around and took off running down the street in the other direction. I was dying laughing at the doors of this Come and Go, just watching him run away like, whew. I don't know. I can't explain all the reasons that happened, but I think he had trust issues. I was like, he just got to that point where he's like, I don't know. I'm not assuming the best of that bald weirdo. He's buy me a beer and a hot dog? Can't be right. I bet he's going to stab me later to get his hot dog back. I got to get out of here. Just, and it was hilarious. It was one of the most wild experiences of my life. But later, I was sitting back in the library writing, and it just broke my heart because I realized at some point that guy stopped believing that anybody could believe the best in him. And I just asked myself the question, can I, against all of the evidence to the contrary, with plenty of reasons not to, can I be someone who just keeps looking for that? Who just has a stayed mindset that I'm going to try to believe the best in people, and I'm going to start from a place of trust, even if, in the end, I get taken advantage of. You guys, choosing in the gap to believe the best instead of assume the worst doesn't mean we have to pretend. It doesn't mean we have to play stupid. We live in a broken world full of broken people just like us. They will let us down. They will betray our trust. There's no getting around that. But we got a choice. We can fill up that gap with suspicion and sarcasm and cynicism, or we can fill it with trust and grace and hope. And again, I think the question we got to ask ourselves is, what do we gain with the cynicism? Like, not a hypothetical question, an actual question. What do you win if you keep everybody at arm's length so that they can never get one over on you, so that you never get taken advantage of? What, in the end, have you accomplished? You get to be proud and alone? Is it worth it? I mean, you can go full Simon and Garfunkel. I'm a rock. I've built walls, a fortress steep and mighty that none may penetrate. I have no need of friendship. Friendship causes pain. It's laughter and it's loving. I disdain. I'm a rock. I'm an island. But I think what Paul's getting at in 1 Corinthians 13, and I think what Simon and Garfunkel were getting at in that song, is that that's a sad and lonely way to live and die. It's settling for something smaller than the story God wants to write in and through your life. You were made for connection. And so if you don't have love because you won't trust, what did you win? And was it worth it? Because love always trusts. It hopes all things. And that kind of hope is what allows us to do relationship with messed up people. And without that hope, all we've got left is suspicion. And suspicion is not a neutral emotion. It does something. Suspicion shuts down connection because suspicion communicates rejection. And that's harder to see when we're the suspicious ones, right? We don't always notice it when we're on the side of not trusting. But do you know how you experience suspicion? You experience it as rejection every single time. And do you know what you do when you get rejected as a human being? You shut down, you shut up, and you walk away. And the reason is you are wired to be an acceptance magnet. Like it's hard wired into you. It's the way God baked you as a human being. You're drawn naturally always to places where you are loved and you are affirmed and you are accepted. And I think it's fascinating because nobody created spaces like that better than Jesus did. It didn't matter who people were, how messed up they were, where they came from, what they had done or what had been done to them. They felt like Jesus saw them and cared about them. And he did that like not blindly, but wide-eyed to the brokenness of their lives that was going to cost him his life, and yet he welcomed them in. And I think when the church fails to do that, people walk away. People feel like they're not welcome here, and too often we don't create the kind of communities Jesus did while he was here, the kind he asks us to be, because we're suspicious. And our suspicion communicates rejection every single time. And sometimes, let's be honest, people aren't trustworthy. We're 100% right not to trust them because they're messed up and they're broken. But when we assume the worst, when that's a starting point, then we shut off and shut down relationship. And so as difficult and uncomfortable as this may be, like in any broken relationship in your life, any connection with another human being right now that needs some repair, your best hope for growth, your best hope for fixing it, your best hope for restoration and healing is to choose trust, to decide you're going to believe the best. Because suspicion is not pragmatically helpful. Like, have you ever heard anyone say, yeah, we had this business meeting and my partner was like, I think you're embezzling funds. And since then, the company's really taken off. Or like, yeah, we were out to dinner, and she's like, I feel like you lie to me all the time, so I went straight out and bought that ring. Like, it doesn't work like that in human relationships. And I know that this is a radical thing that I'm proposing. I know that it feels like an impossible task, because I'm a person too, and a pastor. Do you know how many times I've been lied to? Just because of the role that I'm in? So much times. And so, like, being wary about trusting other people is not a foreign concept to me. And I also know sometimes trust can't happen in relationships anymore. Sometimes that gap gets too big. Sometimes like what you hoped would happen and what did happen is so far apart that it's not a gap anymore, it's a Grand Canyon. And it's full of lies and pain and hurt and abuse. And in those moments, trust is simply not possible. And I realize saying that might seem like I just cut the legs out from under everything I had already said and proved my point wrong. But bear with me, because I think there's something we can do in that space too. Like when the gap becomes too big to trust, when we decide I cannot assume the best in this situation anymore, when the gap becomes too big to trust, the only thing left to do is to have a conversation. Like a confrontation conversation. And 5 of you just got excited about that. You're like, yeah, confrontation. And the rest of you were like, I was hoping you would say unfollow them on Instagram and tell everyone what a piece of trash they are. That's my preferred option too. Like, just confession. That would be great. I would like to do that, but the Bible has all these thoughts, and God has different ideas about how we're supposed to move forward. And so when you can't choose to trust anymore, and that's subjective, all right? That has a lot to do with how you're wired and the experiences you've had. Right? It's not like, well, you should trust. Like, when you know you can't trust, not if, when you get there in a relationship, you got to confront it head on. You got to have a conversation. Because I know this much about people. If you are not talking to them, you are talking about them behind their backs. Even if it's just to yourself, the conversation you're having when you're driving in the car. Like, and another thing, Susan. Like, it just happens in our lives. And so you got to talk to them, not by assuming the worst and telling them, here's all the reasons I'll never trust you again, but by believing the best and asking for an explanation. Like, if you can come to somebody and honestly say, hey, I want to trust you. I don't right now. Like, I'm in a spot where I'm struggling with it, and I don't, but I would like to. Can you help me? You guys, that does something profound in a human soul, because when we hear the words, I want to trust you, something in us lights up that says, I want to be trusted. Even in people who haven't been trustworthy in the past, they hear that and they're like, okay, well, I'd like to earn trust. Because trust is something we're built for. We long for it. And so initiate the conversation. Just do it. And I know some of you are like, I cannot figure out how to do it because I hate confrontation. And guess what? 95% of the population hates confrontation, statistically speaking. And so if you're in the 95%, number one, you got good company. Number two, you're probably going to be better at it. Because have you ever been confronted by the 5%? It's not very fun. They bring receipts. Sometimes they bring lawyers. It's just not like it's not what you want. And so don't hide behind, hey, I don't like to do this. Nobody likes to do it. But it's got to happen if there's any hope of that relationship being healed and moving forward. Because your only other option is to let it fester, like inside of you. If you can't move forward in any sort of healthy way, it's just going to fester. And can we be honest? That is a gross word. Fester, fester, fester. That's cringe, as the youths would say, right? Like, it makes me think of an oozing wound. Or the uncle from Addams Family, who has a great haircut, but either way, you don't want to fester. You can't do it, and so you gotta move toward. Because there are a lot of people out there who've never learned to earn trust. And I think if you lean in and move toward, what you'll be shocked by is that imperfectly, not without failing, not without continuing to let you down along the way from time to time, they will lean in and move toward love too. And it will absolutely reroute the trajectory of that relationship.